Hey everybody, welcome to another spectacular screencast by your very well-dressed nerd, Seth David here from the world-famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated. And today I want to share with you a little bit about the new QuickBooks Online layout, specifically the new bank feeds layout. And from what I've read, this is the new AI version of QuickBooks Online, although I don't really see a lot of AI going on here, at least not obviously. Maybe it's behind the scenes stuff. But let's talk about this new bank feeds layout. And before I dive in, I just want to say something. I've seen all the chatter already, of course, in all the Facebook groups. I don't comment a lot, but I do actually read and pay attention. It helps me kind of stay on top of what's going on here. And I know a lot of people are right away saying, how do I switch back to the previous version? This is terrible. I hate it. Why do they want to make changes? I want them to make the product better, but I don't want them to change anything. And, some of you are even saying that your clients are asking to switch it back. I want to urge you not to switch it back. And it's not because I don't agree with you that it's terrible. I'm actually going to show you a few reasons why I actually do think it's horrible. Just from a not so much a design standpoint, but a user experience standpoint. We'll get into that in a minute. But here's the bottom line. It's not going away. Intuit will evolve it. They will collect feedback and improve it. But it's not going to disappear. So switching back to the previous version is a bit like burying your head in the sand and hoping the problem goes away. It's not going to. So I think your best bet is to get ahead, stay ahead by sticking with this, learn it, and let's develop some processes. Look, if you've been with me over the recent years, then you know I'm very dead serious about SOPs and processes and making sure that we have all that written out very clearly. And so now, if anything, it's time to whip out your banking SOP and update it based on these changes. And then set a schedule to revisit that, maybe monthly, if not quarterly, to keep up, because I can guarantee you they'll change. I am sure they're getting a ton of really negative feedback about this. So let's dive in and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So the first thing, and the first time this came to my attention recently, was when a friend of mine who we both kind of serve in a nonprofit was trying to update bank feeds for the nonprofit. And in this case, we get deposits and we use the customer list to associate those deposits with the particular event that the money came in for. It could be ticket sales, it could be stuff we sold at the event. Bottom line, these are all donations. They're going to go to an income account. We don't do invoices. In other words, we need to code the deposit directly to the customer so we can get the income associated with the right event. Well, he did what he was in the habit of doing from before these changes, and he came and he clicked in here. And lo and behold, it says that the information can't be added to deposit transactions, meaning the customer. So the customer drop-down is grayed out, and it's telling me that we cannot associate a customer with a deposit, which makes zero sense. I just gave you the exact use case for why it's the only and most obvious thing we would want to do. So then I encouraged him to just play around a little bit and see, like, there must be another option somewhere for how you can do this. So sure enough, when you click on this, which is not what you would expect to have to do, because this clearly looks like it would be just for batch editing stuff. But even as I select just one, I can click edit, and from this dialog, I can select a customer. Okay. Now, again, from a user experience standpoint, this is awful. Just the sheer fact of the inconsistency that in one dialog here, I can't do the obvious thing. Here I can. And then also, if I go back to this view, here I've got a memo. This is my memo, right? But if I'm doing it this way, I'll go back to this edit button. I can't do it. Now, I'm not going to post this because I need to deal with this based on my rule. But my friend says that when he did this and applied and posted, it did retain his memo, which he did in this dialog. But literally now, to do this, to execute this effectively, I need to be popping into two different dialogues for the same transaction in order to be able to fill in all the details that I need. So, of course, what I recommend is not doing either. And your best bet is to just go record a deposit, fill in all the details there, and then just match it here. Okay? So that's a big negative on this. Okay? The next thing, and I forget if I mentioned this. I don't think I did. When I first got here, I couldn't resize the columns. Like, I wanted to be able to see more of the description, and I definitely wanted to be able to see more of what it was trying to match or categorize it to. Because one thing's for sure, when Intuit rolls out changes like this, I don't assume that it's not going to mess with my rules. In fact, I assume it will. And in the past, when they started evolving the technology to where it was trying to guess for me how to code a transaction, in many cases I've noticed that their guess would supersede my rule, which drove me nuts. If I have a rule, it's because that's where I know I want it. Don't try and tell me otherwise, right? So it would drive me crazy, and so I learned never to totally trust the rules. I still, going back to my SOP, I still, as part of my banking SOP, confirm every transaction. Even as I create a rule, I never, ever check off. There's a little checkbox in that dialog where you can basically say, skip the bank fees, just automatically code this based on the rule, and I don't need to see it. I never do that because I know the minute I do, something's going to change here that's going to cause my transaction to get coded incorrectly. So the next thing I always want to do when I get here is I look at the rule and I want to confirm, and when the column wasn't wide enough, the first thing I went to do is click here because I wanted to see, okay, what's it doing? And sure enough, now I can see up above are these suggested. I can see which one is being applied because it is clearly using my rule. And as soon as I see that, I'm okay. But initially, I had all these other columns in here that made it much more difficult to see what was going on. It looked something more like this. So you may want to come in here before anything else and just get rid of the stuff you don't need, right? Like in this dialog, I don't particularly care about the class or any of that. So that's your quick tour of the bank feeds and some of the sort of issues that I see with it. So again, what I would encourage you to do is not ignore this. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't click switch to previous version. Stick with this. Get used to it. Build something into your schedule that allows for a little extra time to spend with this while you're working on your clients. Update your SOPs. If you don't have an SOP for banking, please write an SOP for banking. Even though you might think it's so ingrained in your brain that you can do it in your sleep, you want to do this to sort of plan for the eventuality that you might hire somebody one day, and instead of you having to invest all of your time and energy into training them, you want to be able to hand them the most beautifully written SOP, so you can pretty much hand them that, and then you can get focused on doing the things that you wanted to be freed up to do, which is why you hired that person in the first place. And either way, I've found in my case, I don't hire anybody. I have no intention of hiring anybody, and I still do the SOPs because it helps me. It forces me to slow down when I take the time to pull up the SOP and step through each of the instructions to make sure I don't forget something. I'll tell you the exact kind of time it saves me, and then I'll shut up for this video. And then I also want to explain to you where you can get some additional resources. So stick with me for just a couple more minutes, okay? But the kind of time this saves me is in my own accounting. For example, I don't have anything that integrates with my sales channel, right? I don't use like Shopify or any of the obvious ones. So I have to extract data and then use SASANT to import all of my sales. Well, when I'm doing that with my payments, oftentimes when I'm preparing the file for import, and the mapping's all done, that's easy. But I have to flip a sign, for example, on a fee so that, for example, like take a PayPal payments, right? I got to make sure that it goes in with the gross amount as a positive and the fee as a negative because I mapped them to come in into a sales receipt and I need to make sure it nets out to the right amount. That will tie to what's on the PayPal statement. So a lot of times when I don't take out the SOP and follow the steps, I wind up forgetting to flip the sign. And that costs me more time later because once I realize that, I'm already in the import process. Now I got to go back, rip the file out, kind of fix it, and then start all over again. So those kind of things. A little time up front now spent using an SOP and writing that SOP in the first place, I promise you will save a ton of time later. A lot of times in a whole system, what we have are a lot of processes that work well together, and sometimes some of those processes need to be intentionally inefficient to make the whole entire system more efficient. So now I'll shut up, but real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find a link in the description over to my brand new Talk Nerdy to Me community, where you'll find the same video and a write-up, and also the opportunity to comment and get my feedback. I can answer your questions. It's free to join the community, so you're welcome. Please join it. And of course, you can also comment here on YouTube, but you're much more likely to get a response much faster if you do it in my community, because I am in there all day, every day, 24/7, 365, weekends, holidays, doesn't matter. I'm there. Even if I'm not there, I'm there because I have a mobile device that gives me notifications about these things. So I get clued in, and I'll generally get back to you within one day You know, if it's a weekend, maybe a business day, something like that. Anyway, seriously, now I'm going to shut up. So go do your thing. Don't change back to the previous version. Learn this, play with this, get used to it, and then plan to just keep rolling with the changes as they roll out, because I can promise you that they will.